INEC speaks on use of card readers at Saturday's Kogi rerun election. Ogun State communities cry out, say border closure is killing them. On the international scene, dozens of Iraqi protesters killed by army. And in sport, Unai Emery sacked after 18 months in charge.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. 6 persons have been confirmed dead in an auto crash in Bauchi. Federal Road Safety Corps FRSC Public Relations Officer in Bauchi State, Worsens Suleiman, told journalists on Thursday 2 females and 4 males were the casualties of the accident, which occurred along Bauchi-Darazo Road at Badaromo, about 25 kilometers to Bauchi. Suleiman said the accident happened when one of the vehicles tried to pass the other and collided with another vehicle. 14 persons were reported to have been involved in the accident. The 6 fatalities occurred when one of the vehicles somersaulted into a bush. Meanwhile, Lagos had its own share of tragedies as well. On Thursday, 2 persons were confirmed dead in a gas explosion near Apapa area of the city. Lagos State Emergency Management Agency, LASEMA, says 23 others were seriously injured but were rescued. LASEMA Director General Dr. Olufemi Oke Osaitolu told said the explosion was caused by a gas leak at a cylinder stall. He said the fire ignited as a result of a phone call by an unidentified resident. He said the fire spread to nearby shops and a bungalow behind the shops. Oke Osaitolu said the area had been cordoned off and that post-disaster assessment was ongoing. He urged residents to avoid the use of naked fire in the area to prevent further disaster. Kogi rerun senatorial election is scheduled for tomorrow, and the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) has said it will use and deploy smart card readers in all elections, including tomorrow's reruns in Kogi West Senatorial District, Ajaokuta Federal Constituency, and Samoa State Constituency. INEC said it was necessary for the Commission to clarify its position on the use of the card readers because some remarks had been credited to its National Commissioner and Chairman, Information and Voter Education Committee, Festus Okoye, at a program by the Situation Room. INEC says the group had given the impression that smart card readers were no longer useful in the electoral process. The Commission says it introduced the SCR in the electoral process principally as an additional confirmation and authentication tool to determine the authenticity of cards presented by voters and to eliminate impersonation. The Commission says these are serious challenges to the electoral process in the country. Meanwhile, the People's Democratic Party (PDP) candidate in the Kogi West Senatorial District, Dino Melaye, has raised an alarm in which he has alleged that his state governor, Yaya Bello, and Nasir El-Rufai of Kaduna were represented at an alleged meeting held in Lagos State, which he says was held to ensure his loss in Saturday's rerun election. He claims the meeting took place on Thursday and was attended by APC chairman and 2 judges. Melaye will go head-to-head on Saturday with Smart Adeyemi of the All Progressives Congress, APC. Border communities in Ogun State are complaining the border closure is adversely affecting them. 6 traditional rulers, including the Oni Humbo of the Humbo Kingdom, Oba Joseph Adeshio, a historian, Professor Anthony Ashiwaju, and scores of residents from more than a dozen communities saying evacuation of farm produce and poultry products by local farmers have become impossible. They say overzealous border task force officers involved in the operation's swift response allegedly harassing them, saying the farm produce were smuggled items. At a press conference in Abeokuta, the state capital, leaders of the border communities under the umbrella of Ogun West Consultative Forum and other concerned citizens urged President Muhammadu Buhari to review the border closure and reduce the hardship they face daily. The traditional rulers said the president should also rescind his order banning supply of petroleum products within 20 kilometers radius of the border. They lamented the custom officers have made life more miserable for them, saying they are upholding the presidential ban order on petroleum. They say the order has caused economic hardship to innocent Nigerians living in the border areas who have nothing to do with economic sabotage the government popularly calls smuggling. With increasing insecurity level, including armed robbery and kidnapping in Nigeria, many in Abuja, the nation's capital, are beginning to devise means of defending themselves. Kidnaps for ransom, armed robberies and petty theft are common threats to personal security in Nigeria, and that is why, for personal security reasons, many women are now sweating it out in fee-paying martial arts classes. Kelechi Emekalam reports.
An ongoing self-defense class for women. It's a passion for Thursday Peter, Nigeria's female taekwondo title holder. In Nigeria, assaults on women is on a continuous rise from 21 to nearly 30% in just 2 years. Nigeria's patriarchal society oftentimes blame the victims. So Thursday Peter is helping many Nigerian women defend themselves by teaching them basic defense techniques.
The situation in the country is not really pleasant in terms of bullying, assaults, attempted rape, murder, killings and all sorts. So we have to look into ways to defend ourselves. So I consider myself as being one of those victims, so who could be attacked. So I had to pour out my knowledge, helping other women.
So far, Thursday has trained over 100 women in self-defense, and many more are keen to learn how to stand up for themselves in the face of adversity.
Self-defense is a basic life skill. Everyone should know how to defend themselves, male, female, young, old. It's the same way you know how to cook.
I really enjoyed the class. It covered the basics of how to fall, how to block, how to strike, how to escape from grips, how to escape when you have your back on the ground. So I really enjoyed it.
Sexual assault and harassment, physical violence and forced girl marriages are some of the common cases women in Nigeria face. Thursday also takes her advocacy beyond here to schools to help the younger girls. She hopes that more Nigerian women will stand strong and speak up for themselves.
Coming up, African stories. Rwanda pilots HIV injection that would replace daily drug doses. And later, international news. Dozens of Iraqi protesters killed by army.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Now to African continent today. Namibians are eagerly awaiting results from their Tuesday votes to elect a new president, and partial results from the country's Electoral Commission suggest incumbent President Hage Geingob is on course to win, but with a significant drop in support compared to the previous election. Angela Coppola is on Windhoek.
Voters were looking for different things from this election, and the parties were hoping to capitalize on those needs.
What is driving my voting decisions would be the continuity. I believe that the government has done a lot of work, although some of the work that the government has done has not positively impacted the people, especially when it comes to emotive issues such as land and housing. But the government so far, since 2014, has done a lot to stabilize our microeconomic stability.
There's another issue that is driving the agenda for voters and political parties: the corruption and money laundering scheme that's come to be known as the fish rot scandal. It involves fishing licenses, kickbacks, government officials and an Icelandic fishing company. It's become a rallying call.
And if you look at the question of corruption, it's one of the biggest problems that this election is going to test, because corruption is eating at the bone marrow of our society, and it has been allowed to grow because the president and the government will always argue that corruption is just a perception and it's not a reality. Now that the Icelandic Republic has really revealed that our own ministers are captured, like the Bozaza billions, they are being paid money to sell off large concessions to Icelandic companies.
We deal with corruption, we declare war against corruption. We take steps, but Iceland must also do it. Corruption came from there. There are two. You are coming to corrupt our people, and it's Namibia. We are going to deal with ours, you must deal with yours too.
This election also has a first for Namibia. It's the first time there's a woman presidential candidate, and she's upbeat about her prospects.
My expectation is I'm very positive, I'm optimistic, I'm confident. My expectation is that my party will do very well in this election.
There's also a larger than usual youth vote, and they're determined to have their say, despite standing in queues for hours in many cases, well past the official polling station closing time.
I'm not willing to go home without voting. That's the thing, because I really want my vote to count. So I'm just gonna stay here until my vote is heard.
As the results slowly start to trickle in, Namibians are wondering who's going to lead them for the next 5 years and whether they're going to deliver on the promises they've made.
Sub-Saharan African cities are being hosted by the mayor of Tunis as they gather to discuss ways to achieve sustainable development. Adnan Chawochi is there.
The mayor of Tunis highlighted the need for more sustainable urban planning and public services. Saad Abderrahim also noted that a UN report predicted that 2.5 billion people will be living in cities by 2050.
We're discussing ways of building better, more sustainable and economically competitive cities in Africa, the Sahel and Arab region to guarantee a healthier environment for future generations.
City councils, advisors and development engineers stressed that urban areas in Africa and the Arab region are overcrowded. Despite the considerable efforts, many neighborhoods still suffer from shortages of clean water, electricity and other resources essential to the support of the exploding populations.
This high-level meeting is an opportunity for exchanging experiences. For example, what is missing in the city of Rabat could be found in other African and Arab cities in the region and vice versa. Improving the quality of life is our main goal.
We want to shed light on the best strategies and mechanisms of making deprived areas more reliable in terms of services, influencing and convincing decision makers in important steps by presenting reliable scientific data from cities.
Experts pointed out that youth unemployment increases domestic terrorism and violence in many regions in Africa.
The concentration of young people is very high in African cities. The unemployment crisis can cause extremism and insecurity, especially in the Sahel countries. Terrorists often recruit unemployed youth and target impoverished areas. Creating jobs preserves stability in our countries.
Participants addressed the issue of availability and increasing cost of basic services and utilities like public transportation, education, water and electricity. They also shed light on problems and solutions related to sanitation, drainage, waste management and their impact on public health and pollution.
The Rwandan government is piloting an HIV injection it hopes would eradicate the need for patients to take drugs on a daily basis. Rwanda is one of the countries involved in the trial of the HIV injection drug. Director General of Rwanda Biomedical Center, Dr. Sabin Nsanzimana, says the injection is considered a more improved and sustainable way of treatment. Each dose of the injection lasts for 8 weeks, beating the daily requirements of the ARV pill. Details about the new drug are not yet revealed, but Dr. Nsanzimana says the 8-week trial of the injection will be specifically discussed at different sections of the 20th International Conference on AIDS and Sexually Transmitted Diseases in Africa to be held in Kigali next week. More than 150 countries are expected to be there.
When we return, international news. Dozens of Iraqi protesters killed by army. And later, sports. Arsenal manager Unai Emery sacked after worst run of results for 27 years.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Now to the foreign scene. Iraq's Prime Minister Abdul Mahdi has announced his resigning in the wake of deadly anti-government protests. Abdul Mahdi's announcement was broadcast on Iraq state television just more than a year after he took office. It comes a day after more than 40 protesters were killed by Iraqi security forces and hours after the country's top Shia cleric, Grand Ayatollah Ali al-Sistani, called for a change in leadership. Violent protests in Iraq have continued unabated. Now, Iraqi security forces are reported to have shot dead at least 44 persons on Thursday in the country's south in one of the bloodiest days of violence since the anti-government protests erupted in early October. Security sources told reporters more than 200 persons were wounded in the crackdown on protests in Nasiriyah. The Iraqi government fired Lieutenant General Jamil al-Shamari, who was appointed a day earlier to manage the unrest in Dikar province, of which Nasiriyah is the capital. Albania has been hit by powerful aftershocks that followed the nighttime earthquake that has killed at least 25 persons, including Albanian Prime Minister's future daughter-in-law. Alhoza Milenkovic, who has been monitoring the developments, reports rescue workers have been on their feet for 60 hours trying to clean up the rubble.
Ambulance is leaving, carrying the body of a victim recovered from the ruins of a building in Durrës. The second one is taking a man to a hospital. He collapsed when he realized that the body in the first car was his brother. Another victim found in these ruins. Just until Monday late night, this place was the hotel of 7 floors. Now it is just a massive pile of rubble. For almost 60 hours, rescuers are trying to clear up debris behind me. Using heavy machines, they're fighting the clock, hoping to find and save people that are feared trapped beneath. On the other side of town, people left homeless are finding shelter in these tents. Dorian's family is among them. While holding his 2-year-old son, Dorian shares his anxiety about the situation they found themselves in.
Everything is destroyed. Everything is ruined. It is a catastrophe. Our house is uninhabitable. I cannot live here. I am terrified. I am afraid because of the children, but for ourselves too. I cannot live there. You cannot stay there.
Just 100 meters from these tents, NGOs are handing out some food, water and clothing to those in need. Though desperate for help, many are not happy with the aid distribution. They are blaming the government for an inadequate response.
I want to get bread, water, or anything. They are not giving it to us, and the aid is coming from other countries. What is there to say? They are not giving it to us. Everybody is sending help, and they're not giving it to us.
While the worst earth tremors are behind for these survivors, their fight to recover from catastrophe has just begun.
Police say a number of persons are believed to have been injured after a stabbing at London Bridge. The Metropolitan said one man had been shot by police and it was treating the incident as though it was terror-related. The force earlier said it had detained a man. London Ambulance Service has declared a major incident. British Transport Police said London Bridge Station was currently closed and no trains would be stopping there. Police have advised people near the scene to follow directions from officers on the ground. The Prime Minister tweeted he was being updated on the incident and wanted to thank police and all emergency services for their response. Death toll has risen to 42 in Samoa as the Pacific Island battles the Measles outbreak, for which a state of emergency has been declared. A significant drop in immunization over the last few years has made Samoa highly vulnerable to outbreaks of the disease. The World Health Organization says vaccine coverage is on the island is about 1/3. Schools have been closed and a mass vaccination effort launched in the country. The government says 50,000 persons have been vaccinated. The Health Ministry confirmed 3,000 cases of measles have been reported in the outbreak, with more than 200 in the last 24 hours. The ministry says 20 of the nearby 200 victims in hospital are critically ill children and 3 are pregnant women.
Still ahead, sports. Unai Emery sacked after 18 months in charge. Please stay with us.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. In sport, Unai Emery has been sacked as Arsenal head coach, and the question on the minds of football enthusiasts is who would become the next head coach at the Emirates Stadium. Emery replaced Arsene Wenger in the summer of 2018 and was relieved of those duties on Friday morning after the Gunners 2-1 home loss to Frankfurt in the Europa League, a result that means Arsenal are on their worst run since 1992. A football world governing body, FIFA, has announced plans to raise $1 billion to build at least one stadium in each African country that would meet its standards. FIFA President Gianni Infantino said this in Lubumbashi during the 80th anniversary celebrations of DR Congo side TP Mazembe. It says FIFA wants African football to shine and will work with the Confederation of African Football, CAF, and other stakeholders to improve refereeing, infrastructure, and competitions on the continent. One of the plans is for FIFA to create a professional and elite group of African referees who would be independent of administration and political bodies. That is ANN News this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details of these and other breaking stories, visit our website, annafrica.news. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV.